We are live and welcome to the Seven Cities Shoptalk Sports Show, broadcasting live to you from the beautiful state of Virginia to everyone all over the world. I am your host of Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, and of course, I got my man Ed here, one of my co-hosts as well. We're going to bring you in, my man Ed in the house. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing well, Law.
Yeah, we have a ton to talk about today, but even more important, we have one of the most esteemed reporters on the grounds at University of
Some
Virginia.
might say a legend.
Yeah, ain't no doubt about it. When I talk to him, he'll let you know. I call him legend when I see him. But we're gonna have Jerry Ratcliffe on the show today. We're gonna talk Wahoos basketball and football, and kind of talk about some of the things that he's seen in camp, and also just to pick his brain about some of the knowledge that he's had from the University of Virginia, and some of the things that he's seen coming up from the past and from now. But before we get started, we want to thank you for joining us in another episode of our brand of dysfunctional camaraderie. And as of now, this shop is open. I'm your host, Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, like I said earlier. And of course, our folks in the chat and the live stream.
Welcome aboard, Aaron.
Yeah, what's going on, Aaron? Thank you for tuning in. Yes, you did make it.
About time.
My folks that are in the chat, make sure you throw your comments in. We will respond, and we may even bring you on here. But yeah, we love an opportunity to communicate with our viewers and listeners, and that's what this show is about. Give us your input, and we will respond. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in the legend, my man, Mr. Jerry Ratcliffe. We call him Hootie. What's going on, Hootie? How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, guys. How are y'all?
We're good. We're good, man.
Okay.
We're good. I think Ed was saying legend, and you got to go. When I see you, don't I call you Legend Jerry?
You do, and you embarrass me every time.
Well, I can tell you, being I think I'm going on my 14th season now with the University of Virginia, but it pales in comparison to what you have done for the school and with the school. And I learn something all the time when we're together and we talk. And what's cool about it as well, in the press box, we have a lot of tenured press professionals. But Jerry is definitely the elder statesman. He is also in the Hall of Fame, the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame as well. So, like I said, always just an honor to have you here with us. And we just kind of want to get started with what is happening in the world of Virginia sports. But you know what? Before we get started, how are you doing, Jerry? Let me go ahead and bring you up. How are you doing with everything? What do you have going on so far this summer? How's it been?
I'm doing fine. It's been a busier summer than we thought it would be, but it just seems like sports never slows down anymore. I remember back in the day when I was a younger man, and sports writers would almost have the summer off because it was between seasons and there was very little news to report. But that's not the case anymore. There's always something going on. It's almost year round with football and basketball, and and now that they're playing week 0, they started training camp a week earlier than they normally would. So the short summer got even shorter, and they've been practicing for a little over a week now, and I think today they were in pads for the first time. So August 29th is approaching pretty darn fast.
Well, I can say this, it came around for me a lot faster than usual. And I think it was because of the World Cup. Did you follow the World Cup at all?
To be honest, I'm not a big soccer fan. So I was so busy with that and trying to help my girlfriend transition from Atlanta to Charlottesville. And we had a couple of hiccups there that we're still going through. Just when she was getting ready to move, a tree fell on her house.
Oh, no.
During one of the storms down there in Atlanta. And So between that and work and just everything else, I really didn't follow it that closely. I was hoping the U.S. would do well, but I can't say that I followed the game by games involving the other countries very much.
Well, for me, it gave me some, just some sports excitement, and I love baseball too, but sometimes it's a little, baseball can be melodramatic, there's, unless, it's, it's 62 games or 182 games that they play. So, as they play that many games, you kind of got to, pick and choose when there's a rivalry or when there's a special series coming up. But the World Cup definitely gave me some excitement. But it went fast for me. Football is here. The kids are practicing. The coaches are coaching. And what I'm thinking about, at this point is, what this team is going to look like. Now, you have been boots on the ground out there, as you always are, when they offer us opportunities to come up and watch them practice, watch the team practice, and also interview the coaches, whenever they give themselves available. Kind of give me an idea before we even get into the particulars or the intimacies of how the team is acting or reacting and what they have going on. How is the vibe for the football team right now after a historic 11-win season on the grounds there at Virginia? What's the vibe of the team right now? Is it different than what you're used to seeing?
It's a lot like last year about this time, maybe even a little bit more enthusiastic, really. I think not only did the players and coaches and media and fans, we all witnessed what happened last year when you go all in, as UVA did, in terms of the transfer portal and NIL. And that made a massive change in Virginia football and basketball. We've seen around the ACC where some schools kind of were like Virginia prior to them going all in, where you would just dip a toe in the water and see, kind of test it out. And, you find out that, hey, feels pretty good. Maybe I should just jump all the way in. And I think Georgia Tech has done that in the offseason. I think Virginia Tech has done that in the offseason. Just invested a lot more money into their programs. And I think Virginia has proven that how far you can come in a short amount of time when you make that kind of a commitment. And so I think this training camp is incredibly enthusiastic. We've talked to probably a dozen or more players in the past week, and a lot of the assistant coaches, and they're all fired up. They are expecting big things. They want to continue the momentum that they built last year, as you previously mentioned, when they had a program record 11 wins, and probably should have been at least 12 because they gave that Wake Forest game away. And
then the NC State game gave that away almost pretty much.
Went down to the last play of the game and on the road. And so these guys are fired up, and they should be, because I think they have a lot of really good personnel that have returned from that team, and they've brought in some outstanding players from the portal that I think are difference makers. And Tony Elliott told us yesterday that this is the deepest roster he's had here, which probably makes it the deepest roster Virginia has ever had, because I don't remember going back to the first year George Walsh was here, that they had some really talented first string players, but not the depth on both sides of the ball that last year's team had, and this year it looks like that they have even more playable depth than they had a year ago, that was the whole key to the season last year, was the depth that they were able to put on the field, and there was it was depth at every position, and we're finding that's the same to be true now.
Well, I can tell you this, I just in my short time, when I say short, I mean I'm 51 years old and I've been watching UVA football as long as I can understand. UVA has always had talented starters, and just the makeup of what UVA football is if the starters can play healthy, they're going to be a competitive team, a good team. But when injuries hit over the history of UVA football, it has decimated the team, which is, speaks to the reason why they only had, a couple or a few seasons of double-digit wins, and the football program kind of is looked as an afterthought when it comes comparing to what UVA is known for, which is basketball first, football second, then comes baseball, talking about men's sports. So, for me, you're right. The depth that I saw was definitely was apparent. You figure Chandler goes down, if our backup doesn't run out of bounds at the Wake Forest game, I think we win that game.
Yeah.
I think we win that game. If he just stays forward and worries about, hitting the pylon, running and touching the pylon, that's a touchdown. And we don't need hardly any more points after that because the defense plays so good. We just couldn't get the offense, kick back up for the Wake Forest game. We win that. And that's your backup quarterback. And then you talk about the running backs. We had 5 running backs play last year. And what do we have? We got 3 of them coming back, who had significant time between Zay, who played in the championship game, Xavier, Brown, and then of course you had Noah, who ran for 100 yards at the William and Mary game in the first half before he tore his ankle up. So you had back, and then of course you talk about Harrison Whaley and first team ACC, Jamari Taylor. So every running back got carries. Wide receivers were good and deep. Cam Courtney, who couldn't really get on the field that much because we had 3 solid wide receivers on the roster last year, and then of course the line, the unsung heroes in my opinion of last year's team. I know the defense was good, but I could say the unsung heroes of that team last year, I think, was the offensive line, and they didn't even have all of their players.
Right.
They didn't even have everybody that, so the offensive line possibly could have been better. Let me let Ed jump in here and say something here with the talking about the roster. How did it compare to some of the other teams that you've seen? You've been around about as long as Hootie. Kind of give me an idea.
Almost. I remember being more happy than I really should be about beating VMI one year. So, I think it's fair to say Jerry and I have both seen some dark times in UVA football, but this is probably about as loaded a team as we've had, which may say more about the past than the current team. But this is really uncharted territory. Coach Elliott was talking about playing 6 defensive tackles. I don't think I'm overstating it when I say I remember a time when I don't think we had 6 tackles.
I think you're right.
It's I remember getting really excited because our kicker nailed 2 field goals. Then somebody pointed out,
in a
Yeah,
row.
it was no. This was back in the JMU, not even JMU. That was I think the reason I know about it is the guy was from Madison, where I grew up. But it was his name was Joe Jenkins. He nailed, I think it was 2 or 3 field goals to beat VMI, and you would have, they came this close to canceling classes. It was just, I mean, I've seen bad. This was, this is sort of, like I said, it's uncharted territory for me. I'm a lot more optimistic. I don't, there was a time in UVA's past when football was just something you did while you were waiting for basketball season to kick in. And now it's really a going thing. So, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I've said on here before, I liken being a UVA football fan to Charlie Brown kicking the football with Lucy. At some point in time, Lucy's going to pull the football away. You just don't know when.
Right.
So
right.
you try not to get too excited because she's going to yank that football away, but by the same token, this year it's going to be different.
Well, let me ask you this, Jerry. Being that, like last week, a lot of my co-hosts between last week and the week before, we gave a prediction of how many games that we think the UVA Cavaliers football team is going to win. I'll say it. I'm optimistic on a lot of it. But I'll throw it out there. AB had 10 wins. Ed had 9 wins. Chad Wood had 9 wins. Chad.
You best repent and get yourself right with God, because if Chad's picking 9 wins.
Absolutely. And like I said, and I'm at 10. What are you thinking as far as just the, macros look at, the roster or the schedule? Give me an idea and tell me how many wins you think the Wahoos could be looking at this year based off of last year's team, who's coming back, and what they've added this year.
Yeah, I tend to usually go on the conservative side. Last year, I think the national over/under was 6.5, and I thought they would win at least 7, and maybe as many as 9 if they did well in the 50-50 games. And I don't think anybody, even Tony Elliott, saw 11 wins in their future before the season began. But this year, the national over/under is 7.5. I think they're going to win at least 8. I would guess probably 9. And if the cards fall right and they play well on all those close 50-50 games, which there's quite a few, they could go beyond that. I think I saw the ESPN projections where I guess they feed stuff through some kind of a calculator or a computer or something, and picked them to be favored in 9 of the 12 games.
Wow.
Being underdogs at Florida State, at SMU, and at Virginia Tech.
Naturally.
Of course.
I think a lot of us still trying to figure out how good Florida State's going to be, how good Virginia Tech's going to be. We know that SMU is going to be strong. But so, if they can win that opening game, which I think is huge, against NC State, and get some really good momentum going, they could start the season 4-0 and probably be ranked in the top 25 going into October. And with the experience and the talent they have, I think the sky's the limit for these guys if they get things going right. Because they have a lot of guys at the right places that have been around and know how to win, and particularly on that offensive line you were talking about. and a lot of the guys on defense that probably are not they're not getting a lot of notice right now, but I think they will once the season gets underway. Because I tell you, they've got some headhunters on that side of the ball that
Ooh.
aren't aware of yet, like Brandon Young from down in your area.
Mm-hmm.
That he told me yesterday, he says, I'm going to be all ACC.
Churchland High School.
It was no doubt in
wow.
his mind. So I would say 8 or 9 wins right out off the bat. And then who knows if they can go down and beat Florida State early in the season. Who knows what may happen. I think the only game right now that you would have to say that they're definitely underdogs in would be SMU and Dallas, because SMU's been pretty good. I don't think they've lost a home ACC game in 2 years, and those folks take football pretty seriously down there, and they've got a good
Just
program.
a little.
Just a little.
Just a little.
And I would say right now, heading into the season, that's the only game where I think they're definitely the underdog in my book.
And I've, just, we talked about, a lot of the guys on the roster last year that contributed and made some, made a lot of contributions to the 11-win team. And also kind of wanted to have we want to kind of have an idea of what are some players that you see right now, when you've seen practice, and some of the things that are going around about some players who we figured were going to be good, but are also just really showing out at practice so far. I know they just put the pads on, and that's when, it's when you really kind of have a come to Jesus moment. And it's like, all right, let me go ahead and get these hits, let me take these hits. Let me go ahead and get ready for prime time, because, now the real bullets are flying. And let me go ahead and buckle this chin strap down and get it going. And that's when you really find out who's ready, who are your real football players, in my opinion. When I played and when I coached, a lot of guys that look good when they're playing two-hand touch, 11 on 11, flag, whatever you want to call it. But when the chin straps and the helmets come out, that's when you really figure out, all right, that kid is a player, and that young man is ready to do some damage. Who, in your opinion, who has kind of showed that was, well, some guys that you felt were going to look good and does look good?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. You can start with the entire offensive line, the starters there.
That sounds so good, Jerry, because, the offense, when you say offense, listen, that sings to my heart. You could tell it sings to my. Whenever the offensive line is looking like is looking exceptional, that just sets up for a lot of good things right off the bat, man.
Absolutely.
Didn't mean to cut you off, Legend, but go ahead, continue.
No, you're exactly right. I think Tony Elliott's aim is to be a dominant running team, not just a good running team like they were last year. He wants to control the line of scrimmage, can dictate the pace of the game, keep the other offense on the sideline, and eat up the clock. And he has the tools to do it with. He's got, you look at Mikael Boley and Noah Josie on the left side of the line, 4-year starters. Noah Josie has the most snaps of any player in college football. Those two guys are, somebody joked the other day, they're like stepbrothers.
Right.
And then you got Drake Metcalf at center, who has played at Stanford and Central Florida, and he's been here for 3 years now. And he's definitely strong at that position. And then the right side of the line, both those guys were supposed to be key cogs in that line last year, but they were both injured in the preseason and never got to play, and that's Macklin Thomas, who is starting right guard, and he was supposed to be the backup right tackle last year when Monroe Mills, who some people believe might be the best lineman of all of them, came in from Louisville and was slated to start at right tackle and suffered a knee injury, missed the entire season. Macklin Thomas was supposed to be his backup. He had an injury and missed the whole season. So now both those guys are back. So you got, I think, one of the most experienced and one of the best offensive lines in the country. And talking to Joey Orrick, the new offensive line coach that took the guy's place that went to Stanford to become the offensive coordinator, Joey believes that he has enough guys on that. Talk about playable depth. He's got 5 or 6 guys that he's trying to work in to get playing time early so that those 5 veterans don't have to play every snap, that they can, if they get up on somebody in a game early, that maybe they can come out for a series or even a quarter or something and get some rest and not put so much stress on some of their bodies, which have had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. So he wants that offensive line to be so good that you don't know when the starters are in and when the backups are in. So he's got some packages designed to try to get those guys playing time early. You mentioned earlier you got 6 running backs, 3 from last year, 3 new ones. If play tomorrow, Jamal Middlebrook would be the starting running back, and that might surprise some people. But this guy has come in and taken things by storm. He's reminding them a lot of Jamari Taylor, and not only his running style, but just the way he conducts himself. And he's the guy that just shows up every day. He's the same player every day, and that's putting a little pressure on Peyton. A lot of people assumed just because he came from Tennessee would be the starter, but he's running behind Middlebrook, and so it's pretty nice when you got a guy like that who's fighting to try to win that job. And then the other guys you mentioned,
Solomon Beebe,
Solomon Beebe has also been impressive. So they should have plenty of running backs. They needed all of them last year, and hopefully they won't have that kind of bad luck this year. But you got a receiving core, and even though you lost some experienced receivers, and nobody has really separated themselves in camp yet, they've got a bunch of potential guys who could make a difference. They've got 17 receivers, wide receivers in that room. A couple of them have played elsewhere and played well. But again, the competition is so close that nobody's been able to pull out in front and establish themselves at this point. Tony says, "I'll play them all if they're all going to stay clumped together like that, as long as they can deliver. We don't have to have somebody that steps up, but it would be nice."
The way he's setting it up is almost like we're going to be like Navy anyway. We're going to be running the ball, and we're going to say who's the best blocker out of all of them, the way he wants to run the ball. So, exactly. Yeah, play 17 receivers. They're all blockers. They're extensions of the tight end room. We're just going to let them go out there and block and, capitalize on long runs by those guys getting downfield and getting after safeties and cornerbacks. But, I'll continue on, Jerry.
And one of the beauties of it is you got a guy like Dakota Twitty who's back at tight end and healthy again. And if you notice last year, that Virginia's running game and their offense kind of bogged down after he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
The tight end is a really key element in Des Kitchings' offense, particularly a tight end who can not only run block, but a guy who can catch the ball, because that forces the defense, that limits the way they can substitute, depending on if there's a tight end in there who's not a particularly good receiver, or a guy who's a good receiver and not a good run blocker. When you have a guy like Twitty who can do both, that limits a little bit of what the defense can do. And he's got a couple other guys behind him that are pretty decent as well. But then, it all comes down to Bo Pribula, the starting quarterback. And I think that he has probably been the most underrated guy on the whole football team.
Talk to me, Jerry, because that – the offensive roster looks very solid, deep. Bo Pribula, you're right. It seems like it's a mystery because you really haven't heard much.
I don't think he'll be a mystery for long, because Keith Gaithers, the running backs coach, told me last week, he said, Bo runs angry. How many times have you ever heard anybody talk about a quarterback like that? Not very often.
Right.
He said he is as fast as our wide receivers. He is as strong as our running backs. He may be a better runner than our running backs.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that.
There are certain things that Coach Rudd on defense, when they're scrimmaging, can't call when Pribula is at quarterback. And I asked Hillman, who transferred in from Michigan, the safety, why is that? He said, we can't turn our backs to Bo Pribula, because if we do, he's going to burn us.
Right.
And, so if you've got all those working parts, a dominant offensive line, good running backs, decent receivers, a double threat at tight end, and a quarterback who can kill you with his legs and is also a decent passer, to me, that's about what a coach dreams of, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think this offense could be a lot more productive than it was last year. And that's kind of scary, because sometimes last year they were pretty dominant. I don't see this offense bogging down like last year's did, because if you try to gang up in the tackle box and take away the run, Pribula can kill you, because that means you've brought another safety down into the box, and that leaves you vulnerable on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And his arm is good enough to take advantage of that.
And he played injured most of the year last year too. People, they go strictly to stats. That's another thing that I don't really like. Some people, they say, well, UVA got a new quarterback, and then first thing they do, they go straight to stats, and they say, oh, he's 10-9, or what was it, 11-9 or something, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and only less than 2,000 yards passing. And it's kind of like you got to peel that onion back, and kind of really dig into what kind of quarterback he was and what happened with him. Number one, played in the SEC. If you know anything about football, about college football in particular, the SEC, and some people are gonna say, oh yeah, they didn't do good during bowl season. You know why? Because they beat the hell out of each other during the season. And a lot of kids out of the SEC sit out during these bowl games because they're going pro. They're going to get drafted. So a lot of those kids, that are, or a lot of those teams that are losing in these bowl games aren't fully staffed as far as some of their stars and some of their players. So don't get it twisted. The SEC is still the premier league when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to the pros coming and getting players out of there. So Bo Pribula was a dislocated ankle, correct, Jerry?
Yes.
It was a dislocated ankle. Some folks said that's the kind of injury, and the way he got where his dislocation was, he shouldn't even have played on the rest of the year on it. Correct.
Correct.
And then on top of it, He came back, he played hurt. And like you said, the best thing about him could be his feet, and how dangerous he is. We saw some snippets of that in the spring game. And you
Right.
could see how he could get out of the pocket, and his lateral movement, to me, when I saw him move laterally, I said, wait a minute, he's different. He's very different. And he's a big kid. He's not he's not diminutive.
He's 6'2", 215.
Right. We love Chandler, but Chandler was a smaller guy. And we had to make sure, Chandler, get down. Get what you can get down. You know what I mean? This kid, nobody really wants their quarterback playing like Mike Allstott and trying to run over people. But I want my quarterback to be able to, get the first down, get down, get out of bounds. But also, I don't want him getting hurt in the process. And sometimes you got to have somewhat of a stronger physicality to your game. So when you do take hits, you'll still be able to jump back up and get ready for the next play. And it seems like Bo, with that size and a little bit of the mentality of, I got to play hard, I got to play angry, or I'm going to get hurt. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so you say we're going to know about Bo, is what you're saying, pretty quickly come the season. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and and then you switch over to the defense, and they, as Ed mentioned a while ago, 6 defensive tackles. They might be adding to that if this Colorado ruling holds up, because they were already talking to a couple of defensive linemen about who thought that they were done and might be coming back. They'll have to find a place to work them into the roster, but a lot of depth up front, a lot of size up front. You got 6. You're 6 deep at linebacker, there's some really quality guys in that mix too. And then last year, one of the reasons Virginia got off to kind of a somewhat shaky start in terms of the secondary is a lot of those guys didn't really report to Virginia until fall camp, and had never even met each other. They go into the season, and their communication was way off. They hadn't met together. They didn't know the system that well. That's not the case this year. All those guys, they've got a bunch of guys, including guys like Hillman, who I think is going to be a star. And they're all on the same page now. And so I don't see any weaknesses on this football team at all. And plus you got your kicker and your punter back for it seems like the 10th year.
Yeah, right. That's
so
right.
I can't find a weak spot on this football team.
Right. Yeah. Between Sparky and Will, you're talking about between them almost 10 years of eligibility. And it might be more. That's right, probably more, based off of our our kickers. And I think it was a big deal, having Will come back, and Daniel Sparks is a ACC preseason selection as well, all ACC maybe second team or but preseason selection, I believe. And of course, Will he has the record for most points for UVA scoring, period. And we get him back and with more confidence. You're right. It's hard to find a weakness on this team. Cam, who we are crossing our fingers, hopefully he'll be able to play the middle linebacker, star middle linebacker. Hopefully he'll be able to play in this first game of the year. And, we'll need him, being that NC State has, quite frankly, from a talent standpoint, has, I think, a first-round talented quarterback.
I agree.
Coming in. And, even though we have that, and no, NC State is NC State, ton of talent, a lot of support. The team, they travel well. It's gonna be almost as red as it is orange on the grounds that Saturday, and I can't wait for it. But how about UVA is, and I think you wrote this, you did write this, is favored in that game. You've got to elaborate on this, Jerry. UVA is ranked or favored 5.5 points. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what's impressive about that, Lawrence, is that they opened up as a 3-point favorite, and that means the betting line is jumped, almost doubled.
Man, you're saying so many things, Jerry. I mean, I'm not trying to cut you off, legend, but you're saying so many things right now that I'm just not used to. That I just feel like, this could be, and I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but this could be, like you said, a better team than last year. And last year was a damn good team, and they could be dominant at times. Maybe those 50-50 games that we won won't be 50-50 games. We may bludgeon people. I'm thinking we may bludgeon people to death, with the offensive line in the running game.
That's what they're hoping. They're hoping to avoid those nail biters like they had last year. And
right,
what they have, 5 or 6 of those, it seemed like.
Well, I think it was 4 or 5 overtimes. Definitely 4 overtimes, I think. Can't count the bowl game.
Yeah.
I mean, the ACC championship game, excuse me. The ACC championship, it was definitely 4 overtimes.
I think they had 3 overtimes in a row, I believe. Or 3
yeah.
in a row. But, yeah, it's I think they're hoping that this experience may help them avoid those kind of games. And I asked Tony about that. I think earlier last week about how much that experience showed up at the right times last year, and he said, "Well, I think that's what helped us win all those or most of those close games. Is these guys didn't panic. They'd seen it all before. They were confident they could find a way to win." And he said, "We're hoping that the experience this year will help us avoid getting in those situations to where we don't have to sweat it out at the end." And I think he makes a good case with that.
That's right. Well, you figure, the year before, like you said, Jerry, they lost 5 games by a total of 15 points. It was something like that.
Yeah, something wacky like that.
10 to 15 points. They lost 5 games, 6 games, and it was 2 points, 3 points, 6 points, 3 points. It was just, and it was like losses at the end of the game, and, where it was like, they were close to winning, but, you got to win those games. And it looks like they turned the corner and they're building. So being that Coach Elliott and the recruiting staff and the coaching staff have, I'm not going to say perfected, but they figured something out with this NIL transfer portal era that we're in. What can you add to what can you say about what they've done with kind of cultivating this culture of making money and or college players making money, getting kids to commit, keeping your own? I think it's a masterstroke by Virginia, because we're not the football school. We've never really been the football school, but it seems like the tide is turning a little bit because of, the NIL. We can pay legally, and make it a competitive situation for certain talents. What do you want to add to that, Jerry?
Yeah, I've said in the past that if I'm a Virginia fan, I'm embracing NIL in the transfer portal, because that is giving you a chance to play with the big boys and to go out and get everything you need to win. They certainly have all the facilities. They have the coaches. they needed talent and they needed depth, as Ed pointed out earlier. I remember a few years ago when London and Bronco were struggling at times. A friend of mine was a defensive coordinator at Louisville for some of their better teams when Lamar Jackson was there, and he told me then, he says, Virginia's got some really good first team players on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have enough of them, and then when one of those guys goes down, they're in trouble, and that's not the case anymore. Thanks to the portal and NIL. And I think Tyler Jones, who was their GM last year, and Justin Sparrows, who has taken his place. Tyler was hired out at Stanford. Seems like Virginia's losing all these people at Stanford. But I guess if you're in last place in the ACC, you probably try to find somebody who went from the bottom of the barrel to the top and copy what they did. So Stanford's got a lot of smart people out there.
Oh yeah.
But Tyler and Justin were a good team, and now Tyler's taking up where Justin's taking up where Tyler left off. They have an incredible staff in terms of scouting these guys and in the portal. They work nonstop. In fact, even since this that Colorado ruling came up, Sparrows has been. He thought he was kind of done for a while, but now he's back on his phone like 24/7, trying to figure out who can come back, what the details are, what has to happen. But that guy is sharp, man. He has a knack for finding talent, and he has a good relationship with agents.
Mm-hmm.
He has a good working knowledge of market value and the whole show there. They've just done an excellent job in the portal, probably one of the better jobs in the last 2 years of anybody. I don't know that they necessarily have the funds that some of the more traditional powers might have to spend, but I think they have spent their money wisely and gotten more for their money than a lot of other people, and that's Virginia football back on the map for the first time since the Welsh era and the early Al Groh years. Been a long time since this town's been excited about football for more than 1 year in a row.
Right. I mean, I think about that, and I say, well, if they're have 11 wins, another double-digit win season, does Tony, he's going to garner some. People are going to look around at him. People are going to start sniffing around, saying,
and they should.
Yeah. I mean, he took a team from, really the bottom of the conference, and brought them towards the top or right at the top, and he's set up again. I think he's set up again to try to make it happen, and I'm excited to see what they are gonna put together this year. Now, I want to talk to you about, and you and I talked a little bit about it, the golden age of major sports may be happening right now. We're talking about all this winning, and it's not just football. We're talking basketball as well. UVA won 11 games, never won 11 games. Then we're predicting another possible 10-win season, 9-win seasons. Then we're talking about the basketball team this year won 30 games. And people, again, they're going in right now. I saw a ranking of almost top 10 or 13 for the basketball program. could the basketball team win another 28, 30 games? In addition to what we always typically are competitive and good at, the spring sports, country club sports, all those things, we're typically very competitive and we win more than we lose. In addition to the girls going to a Sweet 16 last year. Jerry, are we in like a little bit of a golden age of UVA sports and winning right now?
Before we go on, I don't know if you see this message from Chad Wood. He says, "Good to see you, Hootie. How did Law steal you? Blink twice if you're in trouble."
Right, right.
Yeah, I think this is another golden age. The first one was I was lucky when I came here to go through the first golden age that I'm aware of. I got here at the same time George Welsh did in 1982, so I saw that entire transformation from being a laughingstock of college football into one of the most consistent winning programs in America, and what I consider one of the best coaching jobs in the history of college football by George Welsh. He had incredible football teams and incredible recruiting and a great staff, and he built Virginia into much more than respectable football program. Bobby Bowden told me one time, he said, "I think the best coach in the ACC is right up there in Charlottesville." And he was talking about George. And then Algro had it going for a little while, but George, that era of George, if they had played 12 games back then, I think, he might have had a couple of double-digit win teams, but they didn't play as many. And then at the same time, Terry Holland had it going in basketball with Ralph, and then after that. So I think that was the first golden age of Virginia athletics, but the entire athletic department wasn't having as much success. I mean, baseball at that time was almost pathetic. They just didn't have the money. They didn't have the facilities. A lot of the other Olympic sports teams were in the same boat. They just didn't have the money to compete. And so that was the lacrosse team was an exception. They found a way to win, and the soccer team, when Bruce Arena came around, elevated that program to incredible heights, winning, I think, 5 national championships. And then later on, Brian Boland did the same with the men's tennis. But right now, everybody's winning. It's almost an embarrassment of riches. You had the baseball team bounce back, get in the NCAA tournament. You had the men's golf team playing for the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
The tennis team won the national championship. The lacrosse team bounced back and made it to the NCAAs. The women's swimming team is the most dominant program in maybe in that sport's history, at least recent history. They've got a dynasty going, and then you've got everybody's doing well. The softball team made it to the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing so well on so many levels. The track and field team,
the
men won the ACC championship for the first time in years.
I think it was ever, right? I think it was ever first time they won the championship, track at championship ever.
Yeah, and the rowing team continues to do well. But getting back to basketball, this team, to me, on paper, is better right now than last year's team was.
Yeah, my head is exploding, Jerry. So there's so much positivity right now talking about Virginia sports. I don't even know how to handle it right now. You know what I mean? This has been
it's a strange strange atmosphere to be in, right?
I've never seen it. I've never seen it before. This much positivity. We haven't hit a snag yet. We're 55 minutes of positivity about Virginia sports. I don't know where to go from here.
Well, let me make it even better for you then.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. You got essentially 4 starters returning on the men's basketball team, with Chance playing starters minutes last year. Nobody who could have left did leave. They all came back.
That's right. They retained it all.
They went out. They did some really good grocery shopping. They filled every need they had on the team.
Mm-hmm.
That the latest addition, the 24-year-old German kid who played pro ball for 2 years, only made him even stronger.
Wing player, yeah.
Now the fact that they might be better and still maybe not have as many wins is because Ryan Odom's gone out and I like what he's done. He's scheduling aggressively. He's playing some really good basketball teams, non-conference. And if you're a preseason top 15 or 10 team, which they should be,
13 is what I saw last.
You should do that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be playing Kentucky here. They're going to be playing Maryland on the road. They're going to be playing Marquette and Xavier down in Bermuda. I think they're going to play ODU, and I think they're going to play VCU. I'm not sure about that one. They haven't revealed the whole non-conference schedule yet. And now there's a rumor surfaced, maybe more than a rumor, a report surfaced out of Arkansas late last week that they're going to play Arkansas in D.C. in November in a neutral court game. So Calipari would be bringing the Razorbacks up into the Potomac area. So that's could be a pretty aggressive schedule. And I don't think it matters so much if you win all those games. It's just a matter that you're competing against high caliber basketball, and that's something I don't think last year's team was quite accustomed to, because the conference wasn't quite as good as it used to be. It was better than the year before, but still wasn't quite up to the par of where it was. And so I think when they got up with Tennessee in the NCAAs, I think they were a bit overwhelmed, because they weren't used to playing that kind of team. And I think they learned from that. And I think playing those kind of teams now early in the season is going to help them in the postseason when they'll be used to playing high caliber basketball.
Absolutely. Of course, the SEC, let's just face it, more physical in football, but they're more physical in basketball.
Yeah, they are.
Highly physical basketball conference. And to be honest, they've really taken over in basketball as well. Just a lot of tough, and maybe from a skills standpoint, it's they're not quite in my opinion, the top skills, like the best shooters, the best passers, you know what I mean? Maybe not quite that, but they will beat the hell out of you in the SEC. They'll rebound over you. A lot of these kids are, they're ultra athletic anyway. All the kids that play basketball in the NCAA, but it just seems like from a strength and athleticism standpoint, just like the football programs, it seems like you get a little bit more of that in the SEC, and that's kind of showing it out throughout the whole conference. It's like go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I think the SEC was the first conference to really take advantage of the NIL as far as basketball goes. And they completely redid their image. I had Seth Greenberg on a podcast 2 years ago, and he pointed that out, that the SEC was the new ACC. And the ACC,
they didn't like that. The ACC guys didn't like that.
And he was being perfectly honest. And we've seen what they've been about, and now the ACC has realized that and is trying to retain their old status. It takes time, particularly when you lose a lot of Hall of Fame coaches like the ACC did. But the SEC, you're right. If I were Virginia, I would load up my non-conference schedule and play as many of those guys as I could just to get ready for when things really matter in March.
And that's conference play, and that's the physicality. One thing about it when it comes down to the NCAA tournament, it's ball security, guard play, rebounds, and physicality, toughness. That can get you far if you have all those things, and and defense. You got some teams that can play some really tough defense and can close out and make it a difficult, mucky game. And the SEC, they have the athletes that can really make it tough to play them, even when they're not scoring. They make a difference on the defensive end because of some of the athletes that some of these kids, some of these teams have in these kids in the SEC. But I'm telling you, real tough. And like I said, the basketball team, we're looking forward to that. Is there anybody on the roster that you're looking forward to that we don't know on the basketball team that you want to report on?
Well, first of all, Ed, I want to tell you I love your background there with Lambeth Field on it. That's a really cool place. I've been over there a few times just to try to absorb what that must have been like playing on that field back in the days. But that's a great background.
Chad claims to have spotted me somewhere back in the crowd. I'm not sure exactly where.
I had the pleasure of knowing Lawrence. You may have met him, Dr. John Risher from Lynchburg, who was Virginia's oldest living football alum.
Yep.
Lived to be 107 years old.
Yep.
And he played on that field back in the.
Wasn't there a story about him returning a kickoff for a touchdown or something? Maybe that was Gus Mail. Never mind.
Yeah, but he said he wasn't a very good player, and we shouldn't have made a fuss about him. But he still was on the team back when men were men, right? With no face mask.
There he is.
But he told some cool stories. Chad. Yeah, he told some cool stories about that particular arena. But getting back to your question, LJ, I think the Vita kid they transferred here from the West Coast.
The Santa Clara or?
Yeah.
Santa Clara.
And had previously been at UCLA. I think he's maybe a hidden gem that is really going to stand out. I think from everything I can hear, the guy can really play. I think he's going to be really good. And I think the German kid the 24-year-old German kid is going to be really good as well. And I like, I don't know how good he's going to be, but I really like Favor eBay, the freshman coming in from high school, the 7-footer. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and this kid's not afraid of anything. I said, yeah, are you ready for the physicality of college basketball? And he said, I'm not going to back down from anybody. He said, oh, I can get physical.
I like that. I think Silas Burkdale looked like he really wants it too. That looks like Silas.
Yeah, I've heard he's worked hard on his body and he's ready to play.
Like he wants it. Like he looks like he's eager to show his value to the program.
Yeah, and he could be a big a big difference if he can come on and give him another big physical guy up front.
I mean, he's like a true power forward. He's, if things go right in my mind about him, he's probably the Ritter's backup. And
I think you're probably right. Yeah,
and how he plays, we don't know yet. I don't really know what his game is like. I haven't seen him really, but it seems like a very physical one. I think he plays strong. He's a rebounder, but I really would like to see how he's gonna integrate. But he, to me, he's really eager, and wants to play this game, at such a high level that it's kind of like the Energizer Bunny when he comes in, all over the boards, making plays defensively. I don't know. That's the one that I'm looking forward to, and I think the young man from Santa Clara, he gives me kind of like a little bit, not calling him Luka, but that style of a big ball handler like a Luka, and he's kind of guy who kind of gets in the lane and gets like the smaller guards on his back, and he plays, with kind of close to the rim, but you can't block his shot, but you also, you can't, you can't get behind him, and I don't know. That's the kind of game I've seen him kind of play with, almost like the kid that was at Virginia Tech. Remember how that kid was a big kind of a ball handler.
The kid who went to North Carolina.
Well, he was at Virginia. He was at Virginia Tech last year.
But
European
Carolina, right? Talk about the European guy.
Yeah, the European kid at Virginia Tech, and then he left.
Yeah, he's at Carolina now.
That's right. He's at North Carolina.
Transferred from Tech to Carolina.
Yeah, he did.
I'm not sure if I should laugh or cry.
But he puts me in the mind of that kind of a player where, because he came out like gangbusters in the beginning of the year, and then he kind of weaned off. But when he's on, he's real difficult to stop. Really good basketball player.
Yeah.
Young player.
I agree. Yeah.
But it sounds like to me, Jerry, I mean, you've given us so much positivity with the University of Virginia sports at this point. I don't even know where to put it all. My bookshelves are full right now. We're going to have to figure something out, and we're going to have to get you back here either after the first game or right before the first game again. And we may have to reevaluate this, especially when we, some of my other hosts will be back, like Wood, AB, Amy, and Ethan. Get you on with them as well. But it's so positive right now. I can't remember a show or a time when we had so many positive things to talk about with University of Virginia sports across the board. And
it's a little weird, I don't mind saying.
It's very weird. It's very weird. And, we typically can always find holes in something. But if, barring injury, Lord, not willing, we don't have injuries. This could be another, great year for Virginia sports. I don't know.
It should be. And Virginia fans should be excited. Again, you're a lot younger than I am, and Ed and I go back far enough to where we remember what it was like certain times during the Welsh years. This town was on fire with football.
Oh, it was. It's one of the first fights my wife and I had was at the Peach Bowl in '84.
Right.
We were arguing over what I was going to wear to the game, and she wanted me to dress up like a khakis and blue
like
shirt, the uniform, and I'm like, it's a football game. It's when you sit back and you think about how far they've come, it really is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably all took that era a little bit for granted not at first because it was such a new thing and it was mind blowing. But I think after it got going, I think we kind of took it for granted that it was always going to be like that, and certainly that wasn't the case. But I remember in 1989 and especially 1990, LJ, you were probably wearing diapers 1990, but
Not quite, but close.
but when they rose to number one in the country,
Oh my God!
Oh, I remember that.
this town was berserk.
Yeah.
There's been nothing
Scott-
quite like it.
Scott effing Sisson.
Yeah. But every week when the night before game on Friday nights, the Virginia Athletic Department would throw a huge party at some restaurant in town and invite the media and in town, because Virginia was the national Cinderella story. It was a great story if you were from Chicago or New York or Philadelphia or Los Angeles, because what was happening here was close to a miracle. That
It was a miracle.
It was, yeah. Good point.
It was. I mean, it's people will look at you like you have three heads now when you say, oh, we were number one at one point in time.
Yeah,
I was there. I even bought the T-shirt.
Yeah, there you go. I wish I had bought one of the back in those days, but
I would like to say it still fits, but it doesn't.
Well, you figure, I'd love to get back to that, and like you said, if we win first 4 or 5 games of the season, we're top 10. What I mean, let me just look at the schedule really quick, just so that I'm not daydreaming here.
Just to be relevant and keep Cousin Eddie quiet, it would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going into 1, 2. So we're going into possibly, if they could take care of NC State, I think they should take care of the rest of these other teams.
Yeah, you should be 4-0 going into
4-0. You got 4-0.
4-0 going into Tallahassee.
4-0 going into Tallahassee.
And by then we should know if Florida State is good or if they're not good.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, that guy's coaching for his life.
Dorn, right.
He's gotten so desperate that he's calling his own plays this year for the first time.
That's never good.
Now he's supposed to be good at that, but which is what got him hired at Florida State to begin with. But if they can somehow get out of Tallahassee intact,
5-0, and then you could be
6-0 going into SMU.
Oh my God!
Talk about a big game.
Unreal. That would be unreal, man. One game at a time. What does Coach Elliott say? Let's see how we handle success, right? Let's see how we handle success. The winning is great, but the most important thing and the most exciting thing is to see how we handle success. And now that we have it, can we upstage it? And that's what I mean. That's what he's been a part of before he got here. They've had success, and they've had to keep building on top of success, while the man has 7 rings and 2 NCAA championship rings. He's seen that. He's been part of a program, and a lot of people when he first got here, I know he rubbed a ton of people the wrong way. But I think But I think he has figured out how to be part of Virginia and how to understand, number one, how to be a head coach, because he admitted that being a head coach was he's still learning on the job.
I think he made pretty much every mistake you can make that first year.
Right. That's right. And of course, we had the tragedy and all that happened, but he has learned almost like the UVA way, in figuring out how to do things and to be successful in the way that UVA does things, because it's vastly different than a lot of the ways that other colleges are successful. which I think is really remarkable as well. To be this successful at UVA and win this many games is a marvel in itself.
Well, that's the surprising part to me is the success has come, I think, a lot because of the NIL, and I think I mentioned it on the show. I questioned how much UVA was going to commit to this new environment, because up until then, I think the closest thing we had come to an athletic scandal was the Ted Davenport kerfluffle back in what was that, Jerry? The early '80s when they were advancing money to kids to go home for funerals and such.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what year that was.
It was like early to mid '80s. I think Coach Holland was still.
I think it was still in the
here
80s at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was as close as we came to an athletic scandal, and paying players to play. You could hear the pearls being clutched all over the alumni association. What I think is the difference is we always say UVA has money. I think what this NIL has done is it's given schools like UVA a chance to weaponize their money. We've got money. We can create opportunities for you. Come here. We may not do as well as say the SEC schools, but then again, you will have a career. You will have a network when you leave here with your diploma, and you will leave here with your diploma.
We're not going academic. We're not going back there yet. We don't need it yet. We don't need to go back to the academic. Listen. It's about sports and winning right now. Right now, we are a football program, and we're not going to lean on academic.
I'm just trying to pick up the slack for Chad and keep it real. That's all.
That's right.
I will tell you one thing. I've gotten to know a few of these players a little bit away from football.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys take their academics seriously.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these transfers, they came here to enhance their academic career. Yeah.
You have to here.
If you don't,
they make fun of some of the schools they came from, saying that those people have no idea what academics are about, and so they take a lot of pride in what they're getting out of their scholarships.
The nerds take that seriously, and if you I mean, as soon as you talk about easing academic standards, the sky is falling. So,
well, in the words of another legend at UVA Sports who was on the show last year, Scott German, he said that when you give UVA, like you said, you weaponize the monies that they can gather, they can get from the alumni, that they can put together from an NIL standpoint. He said you may have awakened a sleeping giant.
Yeah, they've got money. That's not the problem. The problem was getting them to spend it, especially paying athletes, because that was not done.
That's right. But it's been a great show, Jerry. Let me get you up here. So anything you would like to say in closing?
Well, just piggybacking off what Ed just said, Virginia was, when the NIL stuff first started, Virginia was really reluctant into diving into it. And a lot of their alumni were reluctant. Some of their former players who had gone on and made big money said, I'm not paying guys to play. Nobody paid me to play. And so they were reluctant, and they suffered. And then 3 years ago, they dipped their toe into the water and said, they had saw a little success, and they said, well, either we're going to go all in or we're not. And and once they dived in, we've seen what a difference it's made. And somebody said 3 years ago that if Virginia wants to go all in and can stack successful years on top of each other, they can be as good as an SEC school as long as it's all about being all in and money. That Virginia could be the New York Yankees of college sports.
Another reference. Sleeping
Oh,
Giant, Yankees.
The money's there. The money's there.
Yeah,
It is. It is, isn't it?
and
Wow.
we do look good in pinstripes.
That's right.
Ed, what would you like to say in closing, bro?
It's like Jerry was saying. It's really fascinating to me how bringing money into the game has really changed the playing field for UVA. It was a lot of gloom and doom and pearl clutching, but I still can't get over that they've embraced it as much as they have. It's amazing to me. So it's I'm married to an alum. She was on the second, third, fourth, and fifth softball teams ever at UVA. And when they were having their regional festivities, somebody said, "Aren't you jealous of what they're getting?" And she said, "Shoot, no." She said, we did the best we could, but I'm not going to begrudge them the success they're having, because they still have to show up. They still have to win the games. It's not like you're buying the wins. Right. They still have to show up and win the game. So, it's to see the transformation in programs like softball, like swimming. It really is neat. I still think the NCAA thoroughly botched this in every way possible, but we found a way to make actually it wouldn't be lemonade with UVA. It probably would be screwdrivers and greyhounds, but I digress. They really have found a way to make it work, and that to me is maybe the underappreciated story of all of this. Is they thought it was going to be the end of athletics, and it's really kind of led to a renaissance.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it. People were complaining. People were upset. Traditionalists.
The road was ending.
Yeah, the traditionalists hated it, and they said, "Well, it's never going to work when you're playing college kids." First of all, the NCAA is making more money than they ever have. And they're paying the players. So, with that being said, as Mr. Jerry said, we are possibly in a golden age of UVA winning, UVA fandom, UVA support. Just make sure you get out there this season, especially for the first game of the year, August 29th against the Wolfpack. Also, that game kicks off at 3:30, but get there early. Flood those tailgates. Come out there and support this team, because we could be looking at something else special. They just won 11 games. Let's piggyback on that, and let's continue to push everything forward, and let's see how far this team can go. But with all that being said, we got to thank you for hanging out with us. Got to thank Jerry for tuning in and coming on and blessing us with some knowledge. Also, my man Ed, thank you for coming on as well. And we'll see if we can get some more folks on so we can get Jerry back maybe after the first game. But thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us this week. But as of now, this shop is closed. We will see